If there was any question if the Capitals would be any good minus Mantha and Edmundson, well, I think they answered that tonight.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150. If your bet wins, visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Caps absolutely destroyed the Pittsburgh Penguins. And how did they get that done minus Mantha and Edmundson? We'll talk about that in the show a little bit later. We will talk about how Ivan Miroshnichenko made the most of his opportunity by doing what? Scoring a goal in his second call-up with the Capitals. He is making the most of it. What is his future with the Capitals? We'll talk about that. And then a little bit later, we will talk about how Joel Edmundson was sent up to Toronto. And what did the Capitals get in return? Draft picks. But just to get it going here, just talking about, the activity going on. There is a lot of movement, of course, as the trade deadline is on Friday. And this entire week, there's been a lot of movement, a lot of chatter. Some teams have got a lot better by adding some really big pieces. You take a look at the Golden Knights, you take a look at the Panthers. Some super sexy names in NHL are on the move. And then I take a look at the Capitals, and I see that they're kind of on the outside looking in as far as making it to the playoffs. And what have they done? Well, they've accumulated draft picks for the two moves that they've made thus far. And to be honest with you, kind of bummed, a little bit jealous of those other teams. This has been the Capitals for so many years that they've been in the thick of it. They're in the hunt. What kind of big moves are they going to make? And, reality came crashing down that they are not that team this year. But there is a bright spot in the day as the Capitals pick up a huge, decisive victory over their arch nemesis, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I know this isn't the Pittsburgh Penguins of years ago. This isn't the Capitals of years ago, but a win is a win. And the Capitals won quite handily as they blanked the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Steel City. If there was any question about the Caps and how they would play after losing two bigger pieces on the team, that was answered Thursday night as the Caps demolished the Penguins 6-0. That wasn't backing into victory. That wasn't a close one. That was an absolute demolishing. That was a stranglehold over a team that has given the Capitals fits over the years. This was a huge game for the Caps as they were able to pick up two huge points against the Penguins team that's not as good as they've been in previous years. Washington has won their last 6 games at PPG Arena, going 5-1-0. This was a tough game for the Caps fans and teammates after having to say goodbye to Anthony Mantha and Joel Edmundson. And, whatever your thoughts are on Anthony Mantha and Joel Edmundson, of course, Anthony Mantha was on the team longer, and I think that, a lot of the Capitals fans liked him. I know that they weren't necessarily happy with his production in previous years, but this year alone, 20 goals, not too bad. And Joel Edmundson, in his short time here, I thought did a pretty good job. But why did they move on from him? I hear that a lot. Why did the Capitals move on from him? Well, they were going to be UFAs in July, and I don't think the Capitals had any grander plans of bringing him back. Charlie Lindgren told Al Koken that Tom Wilson addressed the room before the game to tell them there's still hope in the room amid some selling before the trade deadline. And that is leadership from Tom Wilson, because if you accept the attitude that you're out of it, well, then that is going to be exemplified. You are going to live that. But, Tom Wilson taking on a leadership role and kind of just telling everyone, hey, we're still in it. Let's not, tuck our tail between our legs and call it a day. No, they are going to get it done. They're going to do their level best to try and make a push for the playoffs. Carberry tells reporters in Pittsburgh that Tom Wilson got to see his grandfather one last time. He passed away this afternoon. So with heavy hearts and, giving it all the credit to Tom Wilson for having the strength to play under a circumstance such as that. We've all lost people in our life, and I know that he was an important person in Tom's life. So a tough thing for Tom Wilson, and our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Tom Wilson got the scoring first going for the Capitals. Tom Wilson scores his second shorthanded goal of the season to give the Capitals a 1-0 lead. Wilson has scored in 4 straight games at PPG Paints Arena and has recorded a point in 5 straight games. So to say that Tom Wilson is rolling would be an understatement, and it was one of those goals that he was set up in just the perfect place. And what they teach the Capitals is true. Crash the net, set up in front of the net, try to get all the rebounds so you can get second and third opportunities that pay dividends for the Capitals tonight. The Caps continue to dominate as the captain Alex Ovechkin keeps rolling. Of course, remember Alex Ovechkin getting off to his slowest start in his career. And then after the All-Star break, a changed man. Alex Ovechkin scores his 18th goal of the season and his 840th of his career to extend Washington's lead to 2-0 with a goal. Ovechkin ties Paul Coffey for the 15th most points in NHL history. Ovi now has 10 goals in his last 15 outings and 840 in his career, putting him 55 behind Wayne Gretzky for the most in NHL history. So something that seemed like it was out of touch, all of a sudden it just took some time and he found his way. So was he projected at 20 to 25 goals? I think that is very attainable. And all of a sudden he is back on track. Obviously, it would be a better situation if he had scored 30 or 40 goals this year, but he is trending in the right direction. And it's not just the forwards, the Capitals, the blue line, the defense was getting involved as well, getting production from the blue line, and another player in the rumor mill of being traded at the deadline, Nick Jensen, who, let's be honest, has had an up and down season for the Capitals, but tonight was clutch. Nick Jensen scores his first goal of the season to put the Capitals up 3-0. Jensen's 9 points in 28 career games versus the Pens are the second most he has recorded against a single franchise. So, the interesting thing talking about how certain players have certain teams' numbers. Well, in this case, Nick Jensen thrives playing against the Pens, and talking about making the most of your opportunities and making a case to be one of the faces of the Caps' future, Hendrix LaPierre. Yes, this is the season of Hendrix LaPierre. He's had his stints up on the big team before, but he is making a case that this is my forever home, and I don't ever want to go back to Hershey, and he did that tonight. Hendrix scores his 6th goal of the season. It extended the Caps' lead to 4-0 since being recalled from the Bears. On February 23rd, LaPierre has recorded 6 points, 4 goals, 2 assists in 5 games. So he is knocking on the door saying, I am staying here and I'm making a case. I don't want to get, back into victory. I don't want to eke into victory. I don't want to, get put into the lineup because a guy's injured. I want to make a case that I'm on the team because I deserve it based on the play that's on the ice. And that was evident. And I'll talk about this guy here a little bit more later too. Ivan Miroshnichenko making the most of his opportunity. What do we remember about him? He had the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That went into remission. He terminated his KHL contract and played on the Bears this season. And, all things considered, has played pretty well. Not so good as of late for the Bears, but that can be erased to a certain extent as he scored a goal and had an opportunity to at least score one more goal tonight. just really stepping up and making a case for himself. Ivan Miroshnichenko, the Caps' first-round pick, 20th overall in 2022, scores his first career NHL goal that extended the Capitals' lead to 5-0. That is when the Capitals set it on cruise control. Carberry to the media on Miro's first goal. It was awesome. I don't think he knew what to do. He wanted to go to O, then he wanted to go down the line. Then he came back and sat in the middle of the bench next to O. You could just feel his excitement. He was just glowing. And what a great night for a guy that's put in his work. And again, I'll talk about him a little bit more later in the show. And another guy that I said, when he was injured and missed a substantial amount of time is Sonny Milano, that we need to see more from Sonny Milano. And what have we seen from Sonny Milano? A whole lot more. With his third period goal, Sonny Milano has earned his second point of the game. Milano has scored in his last 4 games played dating back to February 24th. So making a case, making a statement that, yes, in fact, Dan wanted to see more. He's going to see more. And that was evident. And Charlie Lindgren, another guy that was put into action as Darcy Kemper was ill, and Hunter Shepard had to get the call-up that he did a huge role. He played a huge role for the Capitals. Charlie Lindgren stopped all 39 shots faced to earn his 4th shutout of the season and the 6th of his career. It marks the most saves Lindgren has made in a shutout effort in his career. So, he is another guy that has been spoke of being on the move, on the trade deadline on Friday. And why would people say that? I hear that. Are they crazy? Why would they do that? Well, because he's on the cheap and he's got a year left on his deal. Plus, they have this guy down in Hershey that's pretty good. His name is Clay Stevenson, and also Hunter Shepard. Well, he's not so bad either. It also marks Lindgren's 14th win of the season, which marks a new single season high, career high, previously in 2022-23 with 13 wins. It marked the team's 6th straight game with a power play goal, and the PP has now converted in 9 of the last 10 overall. So taking a look at the team, there is some things to be bummed about. I'm bummed out a little bit as it does appear. I know not officially, they're still kind of in it to an extent, but, potentially this could be the second year in a row that they miss the playoffs, and it'll be a tough thing to watch. But a win like the one tonight is something to hang your hat on, to feel happy about, and that they still are in it. If they can continue to keep winning, that is a thing that has eluded them this year, is the winning part. Then I think that there still is potentially a chance. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about the really big evening for Ivan Miroshnichenko. He was so beside himself with happiness after scoring his goal. We'll discuss coming up. Eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You'll have over 35 different options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Also, there are more than 60 add-ons to help you stay fueled up and feeling good all day. What are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goals. 2-minute meals fuel up fast with Factor's restaurant quality meals that are ready to heat and eat wherever you are. Pancakes, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. No prep, no mess meals. Factor meals are ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleaning needed up. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team team every day. So this is a great opportunity for a guy like Ivan Miroshnichenko to make a case that I do belong on the Capitals, the big team. Minus Anthony Mantha, insert Ivan Miroshnichenko. Is that going to be a match, or is it just going to be a temporary thing? One of the things that Spencer Carberry spoke of is that it will probably be a position by committee. However, if Ivan Miroshnichenko continues to play like he did tonight, by scoring a goal, then I think he's going to make a case for himself that, yes, I am, in fact, the guy to fill the gap in Anthony Mantha's, departure. But, if he doesn't live up to potential, it's said that Matthew Phillips potentially might get another crack at that. Me, I'm not so excited about that. I remember what Matthew Phillips was like, but this is ultimately Miro's time to shine and prove that he is deserving of a longer look on the big team. Ivan Miroshnichenko, the Capitals' first-round pick, 20th overall in 2022 NHL draft, scored his first career NHL goal. And if you are not pumping your fists, if that did not give you the shivers, the shakes, if that did not make you almost semi-emotional, I don't know what will, because the excitement on his face was just something that was palpable. You saw it. And he, Spencer Carberry said, he didn't know what to do. He wanted to hug Ovechkin. He wanted to fist pump. He didn't know where to sit on the bench. Just a really great moment for a guy that is making the most of his opportunity. This is a guy that idolized Alex Ovechkin growing up. And what did Ovi do? He gave him an attaboy and gave him a face wash a little bit with a glove. Just a really great night for Miro. This was Miro's 5th NHL game, and the big lights never shine as bright as they do when the Caps take on the Penguins, and that was evident tonight. The Capitals were rolling. When asked Harbs about how Miro is better equipped on this go-round in the NHL, you would hope that he's better equipped for this situation. He's a young player, still learning our system, the language, playing over here and visiting in the building. We just want him to be able to show building blocks and show improvement as he plays more at the NHL level. And he did that. And what do we remember? Why was he called up in the first place this time, given the fact that he wasn't exactly setting the world on fire in Hershey, was that he was familiar with the systems. And, sometimes just because it doesn't work out for you in Hershey doesn't mean that it's not going to work out for you in Washington. That was evident tonight. So Miro isn't guaranteed Mantha's job. He's simply just getting the first crack at it. That was tonight. Of course, if I was Spencer Carberry, I would keep rolling with him unless he does, or, he shows something that he's not capable of that position. Then, of course, I would try someone else. But as far as tonight is concerned, I think that Miro, he scored the goal, had at least one other opportunity that I noticed he could have scored a goal. I think he did a perfect job. But the other guy that is potentially going to be in the mix is Matthew Phillips. But it's just going to depend on what happens at the deadline. Some of that might be based on necessity. We know that there are quite a few other players in the mix. Abe Kubel, there's Pacioretty, there's Nick Dowd, of course. Those are just the spoke of ones, that there's probably a whole lot more. A lot more will be determined after the trade deadline is over tomorrow afternoon. We'll see how it shakes out. Carberry says, I'm not sure that I'm going to say that it's going to be one player. I think it might be a shared responsibility, whether that's Miro or another guy getting an opportunity. Again, you can't live your life too far in advance. You have to concentrate on the task at hand, and the task at hand is, and putting check marks. Hey, how did I, perform in this last game? I scored a goal. I got another opportunity. I think I was trending in the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and put a check there, and then just concentrate on the next game, putting a check after that game. Don't say, how am I going to stay on this team for the rest of the season? Think small, think, with tunnel vision. How am I going to stand out in the next game? How am I going to play so well that Spencer Carberry cannot afford to take me out of the game? I think that is going to be a recipe for his success. And a lot of that about confidence, getting off the schneid, as they say, is scoring goals. You saw that with Alex Ovechkin. He was snake bitten to start the season. Anthony Mantha was snake bitten the first half of this season and all of last season. But what did he do this year? Well, he started scoring goals, and guess what happened? His confidence was restored. And guess what? Anthony Mantha, when he left the team, had 20 goals. Seeing is believing. Same thing for Ivan Miroshnichenko here. Just concentrate on the task at hand And I think the rest will fall into place. But A plus is what I'm going to give him. I'll go ahead and say A. A plus would be a perfect game. He did score a goal, but he did have the opportunity for another goal. So I'm going to go ahead and say an A. But all things considered, I like what I saw in Ivan Miroshnichenko's game, and I would look for him to be in the next game as well. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about the news that Joel Edmundson is on the move, and he got sent out to Toronto. What does that mean for the Capitals? I'll discuss coming up. No matter how the game went last night, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can hire, attract, and interview all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can do it all. Indeed partners you on every step of the hiring process, finding great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. So if you are involved in the business of hiring, whether you work in HR, you need someone like Indeed on your side. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked on. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/locked on to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Again, Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So it was announced today that Joel Edmundson, as no surprise really, was on the move and is now going to be playing up in Toronto to help solidify their blue line. So why? Why Joel Edmundson? Well, what do we know is that he is a pending UFA, so who knows what's going to happen with him in July. And, ultimately, I don't think that he found a role on this team much past that. I think that the Capitals knew that he would probably walk at the end of the season. So why not try to get something in return? And what did the Capitals get in return? Well, they got more draft capital, and they have plenty of that. The Capitals have acquired the New York Islanders' third-round pick in 2024 and the Chicago Blackhawks' fifth-round pick in 2025. The Capitals will retain 50% of Edmundson's salary. So the draft picks, hopefully they can flip. I want to hear that tomorrow, Friday, that they are flipping that for NHL-ready talent. Think a guy like Rasmus Sandin on the blue line, except this year a forward, a center, if you can put that on Dan's wish list. This is the second consecutive year the Capitals have made a deal with a defenseman with Toronto, as the team acquired Rasmus Sandin last year for Eric Gustafsson and a draft pick. But how did he contribute through the 44 games this season? Edmundson had scored a goal and five assists, as well as a plus-minus of -5. Again, he was due to become an unrestricted free agent in July. So, it's the right move. And, people will say, well, why did you do it? Well, if you wait till July and then you don't sign him to a new deal, they walk, you get nothing. So I guess, draft picks are better than nothing. However, I would prefer NHL-ready talent, because what is one of the things that we know about the draft and draft picks, if you take it to the draft, especially this next year's draft, is not considered to be a really good one like this last season's one. So if you get like a late first round or, a second to third round, you are getting pretty low, and you are getting some of the scraps of the draft, if you will. Now, what makes the Capitals different than a lot of other teams is they excel at developing young talent. They're actually one of the best in the league at doing that. So I would have a pretty strong hunch that they will flip a lot of those draft picks for younger players. But they still, with that said, have a tremendous amount of draft capital that they can use in upcoming drafts. But if you take a look at it, they need to address a lot of positions, because the Capitals did play really well tonight. A dominant win over a Penguins team How would they fare if it was the Golden Knights tonight? How would they fare if it was the Rangers, the Hurricanes, the Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks, those kind of teams with the kind of lineup that they had? Might have won, but I'm not so sure they would have won 5-0. This team is pretty good right now, but you are minus a 20-goal scorer in Anthony Mantha, and you are missing a rugged defenseman in Joel Edmundson that I think that would get drawn into focus a little bit if you tried to go into next season without addressing it. Now, I have no reason to believe that, Brian McClellan is not going to go out and address it. It's just one of the things, like, I hope he's got something up his sleeve. I hope that, if they do in fact move Nick Dowd, that there is a good return. Hopefully some NHL ready talent. That is my hope, but I will have you guys covered the entire way as the trade deadline kicks off tomorrow morning. And I expect it to be a busy day for the Capitals. I will have an episode wrapping up the day's activities at the deadline's conclusion. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Listen, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holmey, and I'll talk to you again next time.